All right, it is now 8:33, so we are going to resume the Finance Committee meeting. We've moved into the Selectman's office. Does anybody want to discuss what we just heard in there?
I'm gonna be in that meeting for a while.
That's fine. Thanks, Gene. Do we want to let it sit for a while? I know most of you saw it for the first time. The first time I saw it as well, although I did listen to the meeting.
Well, I guess the question becomes, and that's what I talked to Matt for a couple of minutes at the end. Theoretically, the Board of Selectmen is looking to see if by next week you can be on the same page with what appears to likely be them coming out of their vote at the 12-6 with no override, and then the 3.5 request with the override.
That seemed to be the way they were leaning, yes. I'm not really sure how to go about it. I'm not sure how this group feels about the 3.5 number. I'd like to see some more information, so I'd like to maybe hold that to the 9th. I'd like to see some more information. Where does that lead? Matt gave us kind of a general sense of where that goes on free cash. And maybe I'll use the spreadsheet to generate those numbers, but it really concerns me that if we do go 3.5, 1 or 2 years, it's really gonna be year 3, we're gonna be back to where we are.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's looking at the library with using 500,000 of free cash.
School has some money in there, those
That's-
accounts.
that's the
That
thing.
was to me very unclear.
It was, which is one of the reasons I asked,
Yeah.
hopefully for that graph that says, you know, and these are just hypothetical numbers. I have, you know, no override, 2 years, we're out of funds, we can't level service anymore. Override at 1%, it's 4 years, override at 3.5%, it's 7 years. I don't know what the numbers are, but that's kind of what I was looking for. And, you know, it did not seem like, Courtney was all that, thought it was difficult to do. Brett seemed like he was willing to take a crack at it. And, I just think the public needs to know that too. What are we getting
I
for those
agree.
additional
I agree.
funding?
And
Because it was very up in the air about new programs. And I understand this was all kind of thrown at the school committee and the school department and very recently, but
Yeah.
you know, the vote's in a month, and so I think people need to know what they're getting out of their tax dollars.
They need to know what they need to know.
Yes, they figure they're coming, this is only gonna take it for 3 years. There's nothing's gonna change at the end of 3 years, it's gonna make it any different.
Well, I think the school has some significant amount of money in their revolving accounts.
You won't find additional revenue sources in 3 years. It's gonna
That's for
take
sure.
more than 3 years to develop those
right.
revenue sources.
And it
It's
concerns-
possible to, if the school, I mean, I like the scenario of getting some changes at the school that become well-known and helpful, so that the kiddos will get get excited about it, parents will get excited about it. I'm excited about it.
I share that excitement with you.
really excited
I also,
about
on
it.
the other side of the coin, I have a
Skeptical.
major, I'm not skeptical, no,
No.
not skeptical, because I think it can work.
Yeah,
But my concern is if we try and go it alone, think of it this way, from a marketing, advertising, manufacturing, you know, the school manufactures educations, well-educated children that grow up into adults, right?
More than that.
That's the education, that's the investment that we're putting forth. If we're first to the market to bring some of these new programs to the table, that's great. We can maintain, well, potentially school choice and
that's
some students.
what I'm looking for.
What Kevin Maines stated tonight, though, is we've done this in the past, and then other schools have followed. Well, if Uxbridge and Northbridge and
That
Sutton,
was
and
the
they,
life science, the science and plant. animal
exactly,
science.
exactly.
That one.
So if other schools,
Oh,
my
I see.
concern is if we do this, right, and say
Yeah.
for the first 5 years, we corner the market on these programs,
Mm-hmm.
and we have this increase of school choice in,
Mm-hmm.
and then Uxbridge, Sutton, and Northbridge figures out our numbers are dropping, we're having, you know, now they're in the same situation
Mm-hmm. Sure.
that we're in now, they offer them, we're gonna lose those choice in, you know, that's my concern. Especially when he says, you know, we've got AP calculus courses with 10 to 12 students.
Yeah.
From a production standpoint, that's an awful expensive teacher to have only 10 students in the classroom, especially at the high school level.
Well, first to market is always gonna be most expensive. It's always gonna cost the most money. But first to market and cornering it, if we're staying with the analogy, is other products may come along, but they may not be as good. I'd buy US steel over Chinese steel any day. Just because somebody else produces it doesn't mean it's better. So I think that's a job for the school committee and the school administration to keep investing in that program that was started to make sure it's head and shoulders above everybody else, even if they do bring it to market.
Sure, but what my point is, even if you're able to sustain those numbers, and you've got 10, 12 students in the classroom,
Right.
that's an awful expensive teacher.
Yeah.
And I'm not
No.
criticizing people's salaries levels or anything
No,
like
no,
that,
yeah,
let that be
yeah.
clear. What I'm saying is, if you can have one teacher teach 20 students,
Mhm.
it spreads that cost over the base. That's why I'm more of an advocate of some of these extracurricular programs to reach out to Uxbridge or Sutton and say, hey, we've got 10 kids for this class, you have 10 kids for this class, let's hire the teacher together, bring your kids alongside of our kids.
That's thinking outside the box. That's
Well,
thinking
that's
outside
the
the
only
school
way that we're gonna
bureaucracy.
sustain
That
this
was
stuff.
suggested 20 years ago.
But that's
The
the
schools
only way
have
we
a
can
terrible
sustain
time
this.
trying to think about it because they can't go to Boston because Malden doesn't want to think about it.
But that's the way that the municipal side runs, right? The building inspector is paid for by Uxbridge and part-time for us.
This is a new thing.
That's
Yeah,
new.
it's
It's
only
all
really a
new.
new
Yeah,
thing
it's
in
all
the last
new.
couple
It's
years.
the only thing we have.
But that's the way we have
IT
to
guy
think,
was
you
looking
know.
for both those. I think that's recently changed.
You know, that's the way we have to think. If we're talking sustainability and not just kicking the can down the road for another 3 to 5 years when we go back and ask
We
for
can glean
more.
some good stuff from,
When I
you know,
was
with
in
school
school-
choice, if we start something. But you're right, eventually, everybody's
Eventually
gonna wanna
those-
do it.
Right.
I mean, it goes to having a magnet school, coming to some agreement with other communities that, hey guys, we'll do your sciences, or we'll do your arts, or we'll do your music, you do your whatever, you know, and do one of those
We have to
things.
find a way to get some economies of scale out of these, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, that's the way the
There
We
was-
cost
can't
is.
afford one-on-one
You know, there was a
education.
time when Douglas and Sutton shared a school superintendent, did you know that?
Mhm.
Way before my time.
That was long ago, but
That's
yes.
because I'm much older than you,
Way
Pam.
before.
So this increase number for the school, the 643,
Yes.
is that what the school asked for? Or
No,
is
that's
that,
local.
Yes,
or is
no,
that
no.
what the,
That's the
I was
school
wondering if
ask.
that
Yes.
was their
So that's the
amount they asked for.
That's the
3.5%
3.5%.
increase
Okay,
over
Oh,
last
okay.
year, which we saw in our budget.
That's what the Board of Selectmen appear to be headed toward recommending if there's an override.
Yep.
Before our meeting, that's how it seemed to indicate last week.
No, tonight,
Tonight.
right.
Well,
Yes.
it seemed to be
Well, it made it
seemed to
to,
be
it
okay.
made it to paper before
It made it
Seemed
to
to be
paper.
okay.
Right.
Yes, it made, you're
So,
right,
it
you're right.
was discussed.
Appears to be what the chairman thinks. I
At the
think he's
last
the one making it.
Board of Selectmen meeting, they also discussed COLA and steps.
No, the last meeting I asked for the clarification, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, no
The
problem.
last meeting I asked for the clarification from Matthew whether it was Board of Selectmen or Kevin. He said it's
Yeah.
Kevin, that's why it says Kevin.
Right.
Tonight it said Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
That's the Board of Selectmen's anticipated recommendation tonight. We'll be able to find out later tonight,
Yes, we will be able to.
okay?
Mm.
But you should anticipate that you've got the 12.6 is the without
Yep.
Yeah.
the override, and the 13, whatever that number is,
Mhm.
that 3.5%
13.3.
is what Board of Selectmen are going to be recommending.
And the Valley Tech assessment, or the Valley Tech amount that they're gonna recommend is minus the 70,000
In both
additional
instances,
assessments.
they'll be looking at the
Yeah.
minimum
Yeah.
assessment.
But will we be stuck at the same place we were last time when they came back and we had to pay it anyway?
Oh,
Yeah, we're
unless
gonna-
some
we're
other
gonna
That's,
be stuck
communities
with
Carol,
want
that's
to.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we voted it down for
Right,
their higher
right, that was 2
proposal.
years, okay.
And we were stuck.
They were
Last
stuck.
year,
Yeah.
we did
Just
not.
with that.
Just-
Last year,
right.
we approved
Yeah.
the doctor's request.
He's gotta be ready to retire, isn't he?
Yeah,
It's still systematic.
yeah, yeah, it's,
Well, we get that assistant superintendent when he retires, so.
All right, let's be respectful to all, please. So let's talk about the base budget, okay? And again, we're not gonna take a vote tonight, but I'm trying to get some sense of where the discussion points are among the group. So whatever materials I bring on the 9th will highlight those discussion points. And now there's 2 different budgets going around. There's the Board of Selectmen,
Yeah, yeah.
there's things within each budget. So, I guess Eric brought up the COLAs. I'm not sure that's really our area, but Both budgets contain a 1.75% COLA and steps, which is what teachers agreed to. And I believe, I feel a little uncomfortable saying this, I believe that's what the police and fire, that's typically how it works, are going to agree to as well. So that is in this budget. Just kind of thumbing through here. The chief's extra medic is not in this budget.
Correct.
Not in either, I don't believe.
Yeah, there's no line item change, right, Ryan?
That is my understanding.
Yeah,
For who?
for fire.
For fire, the chief's budget. So the library, maybe this is, do we all, again, this is not voting, I'm looking for just consensus, general discussion. In the base budget, do we all kind of agree that the library is not an option in the base budget?
Well, that almost appears to be what the library asked us to consider.
They just voted the supplemental budget as it appears in this.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay,
so-
thank you.
so that-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right?
I would put it as I don't believe the librarian and the library trustees can't believe they can run an effective library without the full funding. They don't believe the library is. They don't believe how I put it is I don't believe the library. What we would be offering is worth the dollar spent without the MAR. So I believe they are arguing for full funding at this point. I don't know, those of you who kind of work with Matt's spreadsheet, I can send it out again. I mean, even if you're partially funded at 80 grand, I'm not sure where you get that money.
Can they still use that building if they're not funded by the?
No, it's only for the library.
I believe
I'm
the-
sorry?
No, I know, but if the town doesn't meet the minimum funding
Yeah.
requirement for the
Yes.
library, and they fund themselves, they can still use that building.
They can,
Okay.
Oh, the library?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why
the
not?
library,
Because I
as a
thought it was-
library.
as a library.
It's a library.
As a library.
He's saying if they
okay.
get
But they
$25,000.
won't, yeah, they won't,
Oh,
I was just
Open the
wondering
library
I
if
thought
it
you
had,
meant
one day a
was
week.
gone.
but they
Okay.
won't be able
Okay, I
to,
get you now.
they won't be able to borrow from other libraries.
right,
You
Because
won't be
they won't
Mars
have it.
certified.
I just didn't know if it had to be municipally funded to use that building.
Well, that's a good question.
I guess the question is, could an argument be made if the override doesn't go through, if the library is open one day a week, could you crawl on your knees through glass to the library gods in Boston and ask for a special dispensation or something? I don't know.
Watching the library
You know, I mean,
trustees meeting,
Forgiveness.
nobody's gonna give anything until the library's not funded. Right, because they're pushing to have it funded.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
this is just me, I
Yeah.
have no
Yeah.
background on
Background
librarians.
knowledge.
My assessment is,
I'm having
if our
trouble
library
failing
continues
at
to
you.
be closed in 2, 3, 4 years,
Yeah.
some librarian in Northbridge or Sutton or Uxbridge is gonna say, come use my library so I can pump up my numbers for my information. That would be how I think it's gonna go, but again, that's just
I
an,
don't know if they're allowed to do that,
Yeah, that's the
to be
problem.
honest.
I don't think they can.
Haven't seen binders since the first time we got it.
Why wouldn't they be able to?
I leave my.
Because of how that works,
I
it goes, how
don't
that
think that
Mars
you
thing
can-
is, that unless you're, they wanna force each town to.
Unless your community where you're a resident
Yeah,
has a library in good standing,
Okay,
Yeah.
fair, yeah, okay.
you're not,
I can't honestly say the last time I went in to take a book out from a public library other than Douglas, that somebody asked me
yeah, I know. Where you
for
live.
proof of residency,
I
filling out a
I get
library
I get a
card.
temporary card in Rhode Island when I go down. They don't like it much, but I do.
Okay, let's try to stay on
Yes,
point.
sorry.
Point here. It was my fault. I started.
No, I
started
did it. I
that
did it.
conversation.
yeah.
My point being, I think my opinion would be in 3 years, some solution is going to be made. Once the library gods, as Pam
Oh.
put it, or whoever, see the library's not working, they're not coming back. But they need to have that threat until we don't fund it.
Okay.
Anyway, so is anyone else here want to argue for funding of the library in the base budget? Or can I make the assumption we
With what?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what
If
you
we
got.
could magically find
Yes.
from somewhere
Well, I
else.
mean,
So, yeah,
Matt
so-
is changing up the budget, okay? He's by virtue of not using free cash. There
We
is
are-
free cash there.
We are using free cash and,
Yeah, he's using it for capital. And he's using it for snow, right?
In the base
In
budget,
the
five
base
hundred
budget,
thousand
it's
dollars is being
500,000.
used for the operating budget.
Oh, it is?
In the
yes.
base
So
budget.
that would be,
Okay.
that would be $100,000 less than last year. We used 600,000
Right,
last year.
right.
So,
Okay.
not be an argument I would espouse, but you could use an additional
Well,
$225,000. That's what I'm trying to get
no,
at. Again,
yeah,
we're-
I'm not
I'm
going
trying to
there.
narrow the
No.
points of discussion for this group, so on Monday the 9th, we can kind of pinpoint those and work our way through them.
You could take out a mortgage on the $400,000 land we're not using that we bought last year.
Well.
Do you want any other suggestions?
We could sell the gravel off and make a fortune.
Right?
I'm looking for realistic suggestions that
I
the
think that
finance
is
committee is
realistic.
able to recommend.
Well,
We
so
could move a
what
Nike
about-
factory to the primary school.
Instead of going with one, what was the increase in wages in this?
1.75. I believe Gene's not going to do this, but I will take a crack at it. I believe even without any COLAs and on any steps, the non-union employees was the increase was less than 40 grand. Does that work for you?
Did the police and fire agree to 1.75 as well?
The police contract will be ratified this evening, I believe, so we'll let you know after that.
Yeah.
The fire
A bell
department
will go off.
is just coming to the table now. They have not settled their contract.
So until it's ratified, you can't tell me what the proposed.
That is
Cool.
correct. That would be
Okay.
bargaining in bad faith.
Okay.
In this wages
So
for
my
the,
previous quote was an uneducated guess. I was not bargaining. in
The
bad faith.
majority of the people
Never.
at the top of the steps, I bet you more than 50% of the people that are in town hall
So-
here are at the top of their
Okay, I
steps,
think
aren't
they're
they?
talking about collective bargaining.
Oh, okay, yeah, right.
What you're talking about, Carol,
Yeah.
is the
Municipal
non-union.
side,
Mhm.
yeah,
which would
non-union
be
side.
Highway,
Right.
library, water, sewer, some fire and ambulance,
Yeah.
dispatchers, and all of the municipal building.
Yeah.
They were 1.75 with steps if applicable.
Right,
So my understanding is that number is somewhere between 25 and 40,000.
It's small.
So you still gotta get another 200,000 or so to get to fund the library.
And you're treating one segment of the population
Right.
differently than the other. And I'll say the same thing, and with, very sensitive to the library. All of our checks say Town of Douglas on the top. So what we have tried to do is be consistent between the different groups that we have here.
what is the selectmen wages that go up $7,000? What's that $7,000 in the base budget?
I assume it is the steps and COLA for town administrator, his assistant.
$7,000?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm
Well-
just guessing.
You have to remember that we, Met
Right.
started in July, there was a
Right.
change in staff last year, so you're not really comparing a full FY 18
Mhm.
to a full FY 19.
Okay, so that's what they increased with his pay?
It actually went down from 181,000, the revised budget in FY
Okay,
17.
that makes sense.
There was also a reallocation, I did put his, some of the cell phone allowance and the vehicle allowance into the salary line. You'll notice the expense line went down.
Hmm.
So it was just a reallocation between the categories.
And that's because it's part of the contract, so you might as well put it up there, right?
So it sounds like many of us would love to fund the library, we just don't have any idea how to do it.
that's it.
So, I will bring this topic up again on the 9th, but if you do want to, that would be a time to say, I want to do X, Y, and Z, you know, how we can figure it out. Because time will be up, as they say at that point.
Ryan, what's our agenda for the night?
I haven't created it, so I would like, I can talk to the chief too, I would like the chief to come in to talk about capital.
I did ask him at the
Okay.
last capital meeting.
So, other than that, it would be to.
Which chief? Fire?
Fire.
police?
Yeah.
The fire chief
He's
is the
chairman
chairman
of
of the capital committee. So other than him, it would just be more discussionary. Again, I'd like to have some idea where we're going when we
We're
vote on
doing
the
the
thing.
public hearing on
Public hearing is on the 10th.
that. And the 10th is a Tuesday.
10th is a Tuesday.
Okay.
The 9th is a Monday.
Somehow I've
Is it-
seen Wednesday and.
So Monday is a meeting to get as much done as we can. So when we discuss things on Tuesday,
Mhm.
after the public hearing, they go fairly, we at least all have an idea where we're going, what the 1, 2, 3, 4 key arguments are. I gave that example about the the override. My first year on the committee, we spent a total of 3 minutes discussing the override, what people thought about it. If people want to discuss that, that would be a night to do that, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. As a newer person on the committee, I would have appreciated that 6 years ago.
I have a general question.
Sure.
When a town puts something out in bond, that can only be a capital project, is that correct?
The town does what?
Puts a bond out, if you're gonna bond something out, it has to be a capital project?
It's a borrowing.
Yeah, I don't suppose.
So, yeah.
Right, I'm saying you can't allocate it to operational resources,
Oh.
it has to be, it has to be a capital project,
Yeah.
that's what I'm,
Yes.
Government probably wouldn't, that's not a good thing.
We don't wanna live off that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The full faith of town of Douglas is behind this.
So my other question with the base budget, do we think we're okay with the Board of Selectmen's idea to withhold 70,000 and change from the BVT budget? Does that sound like an idea that interests us? Are we okay with that? Do we think it should be fully funded? Do we think it should be more than that? I mean, it's a message, it's not approving his budget. I personally think that is fine, and for simplicity's sake, for those attending town meeting, I'd like to have one number there where we can just say, this is not the requested amount, and here's why, and the Board of
You know what
Select-
I feel bad about is that it's not consistent. We didn't do it last year, but I can only feel bad about that for 1 second.
what does that a
Because
de-
I can't
Howard and I
roll
do
it
not
back.
feel bad about that,
I
do
don't
we
feel
not?
bad about
What
that.
is
Because we tried.
what is that a decrease in his
Somebody
percentage?
was a swing
Is
vote.
that at a,
So
to
that-
match the Douglas rated percentage, or?
I believe
That's
that
right.
number is
That is
the assessment we're not required by the state to
It's the
pay.
additional assessment. Now, we are putting that as a separate article this year, so that it's coming out of, it's.
We are?
So on your annual town meeting warrant, BVT will be Article 5.
That's
So
kind of neat, I like that.
We'll be reducing that amount from the article. It will still be there because of the historical trends, and it'll be special article under the current, the FY19.
So someone could make a motion at town meeting to strip the BVT budget to 0,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
I do wanna caution you.
Yeah,
I didn't say me, I didn't say that out loud.
You
Someone.
collectively.
Let her tell you why that would be a
Because
bad
I
idea for
have an
somebody.
assessment that's due in August, and
Yeah.
I have an assessment that's due in November.
That's a tough.
So if someone were to do that, we would have to have another town meeting before
There is
Gene can
zero
make that payment.
appropriation, I cannot pay that assessment.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
the other thing too, it seems the more we irritate this guy, the more kids he
Yeah.
takes from our
Yeah,
school.
He's a pain in the
Everybody's
ass.
smiling, that's a good sign.
Ours needs some
We're
coffee.
scheming, I mean,
Oh, did
planning.
did the police contract get ratified?
It did.
What was the COLA?
What's that?
What was the COLA?
It was distributed this
175.
evening.
225, 175, and 175.
What was the 225?
With steps,
Yep.
correct?
First year.
With steps, yes. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
You guys seriously haven't had enough meetings? You wanna come in and join ours?
No, I just.
Come on in, come on in,
just
come on
gonna make
in.
a phone call.
I'm meeting
They're
now.
looking for their peeps.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Night.
So back to our budget. So did everyone understand, Howard, the point Gene just made, right? We would love to not fund the budget at all, but then we run into big problems.
Yeah.
This way, she can pay the first half of it, and then if a majority of the towns approve his budget,
Yeah.
we can rectify it at the fall town meeting, so she can pay for it.
But the BOS proposal of the 70 less than requested is what BOS looks like they're recommending. If we were on the same page that night, that would be what we would recommend. And if 9 towns pass his budget, then we'd still have to later approve the 70.
Yeah.
But if 5 didn't, we'd be able to live with the lower number.
So,
You guys can visit as many finance committees as you'd like.
Yeah.
And
Carol and I are
So-
going with the blender.
I have a question. So, let's say the line item is voted one way in the budget and another way in Article 5. How does that reconcile?
Well, then we would be fully funding.
I
if-
think
if
we're
they-
somehow, I talked to Matt a little bit about it today. I don't know whether he's come to any final conclusion. But I think we ought to vote on that number only once, and it should transfer automatically by virtue of the fact that you have an asterisk that connects them.
it is gonna be removed from the
Got it.
base budget.
Got it.
And it is going to be a separate article.
Okay,
So.
Okay,
when
well,
we- when-
that's the
Okay.
answer. Move on. Next.
Okay.
When we, no, not next, I don't understand.
So
I have to
if-
write the flyer.
So-
So, when we list the budget under Article 2,
It will not be in there
there will not be in
for
there.
anything for FY '19. It will say, see separate article, and it will be a separate article.
But then Article 2 won't balance.
We will be reducing the bond. It's just like you're splitting Article 2 in two pieces. That's all you're doing. It will balance.
That was my concern
Do we
also.
do that for the law, the lawyers?
I'll
Is that
let
why we
Matt
did that?
answer why we're doing it that way.
Why are we splitting out BBT for a separate article?
Well, he wants him to have a chance to speak to the
Yeah,
article.
so, we're trying to square the circle. The statute says may. The superintendent of a regional school district may be allowed to address town meeting. The last time this came up in 2014, there was a certain amount of buts. Because the argument came up at the last minute, and I guess the superintendent was insisting that he had a right to speak and that his budget had to be presented as he presented it to the town. Overstating the case somewhat, in town council's opinion. But he still advises that the cleanest way to deal with it, break it out into a separate article, have a debate on the merits over his budget, let him present his thing, because then he's getting his day in court.
Right.
But the first motion, and you know, Rich is as well heeled as a moderator as he is town council, the first motion should be what it is that you want. If you want to reduce it by 7518,
Right.
then that should be the motion that's on the floor and debated, not his. And then
He
you start
can-
amending it, and then you get into this parliamentary kerfuffle.
Article 5 is the BVT budget. He can get up and speak all about what he wants.
Keith can allow him if he's.
Motion number 1, motion to approve BOS or finance budget for BVT of X minus 70.
Right,
Yeah.
so he won't get up and speak because you'll make the motion first, then he can speak for or against the motion. But
Right,
Oh,
he
interesting.
he
So you
personally
don't have
is,
to let him speak first. You'll make whoever's gonna do the motion to approve Article 5, Article 5 will be written X minus 70.
yeah,
Okay.
The
Yeah.
motion
If that's the
will
way
be-
we
So-
come out of it, yeah.
so if
Motion to
finance,
approve X minus 70. Yeah.
if finance committee is making that motion, Dr. Fitzpatrick has no ability to counter that or amend that.
that's right.
So therefore, how is he going to present his own budget? Which
As a
is what,
negative voice on the
Okay.
finance committee's
okay.
motion.
Okay, just
But
trying to,
Someone else would have to make an amendment.
Well,
Yeah.
Someone
that-
else would
that
have to
motion would
move.
yeah.
A different number. He
Defeat
can't.
it.
Someone
John,
else
John
will.
Lavin.
Right.
I'm sorry.
You would defeat the motion on the floor, right?
In
So
theory.
your motion wouldn't pass.
And then John Lavin
So,
or somebody.
just
can
to
make
be clear, I think I heard Article 5 will be the amount the Board of Selectmen in the Finance Committee, if they agree, recommend to pay on that budget, which will not be the amount he wants.
The warrant article is
if we
written
vote
to
that way.
If we
include his
vote that way.
proposal. Your motion would be,
Okay.
if you so choose,
Huh?
70,000.
So he's gonna have to get somebody, if he wants his
Wait a
full
minute.
budget,
Right.
somebody in town's gonna have to offer an amendment to that.
Now, wait a minute, you just said
Okay,
the
just said
warrant article is gonna be written to use his number.
No,
That's right.
no.
That's what
no.
Jean
The
said.
warrant article, your motion will not. Your commentary, the finance
Oh,
committee presentation.
I apologize. The
Okay.
warrant article will be what?
Yes, will
His-
be
Warrant,
his
yes.
amount.
His full amount,
The warrant
Yeah.
article.
okay, well, that's what I was asking.
But the finance committee's
Okay.
commentary
So Article
What goes
5 comes
underneath?
up, the very first thing is
Okay,
a motion
so-
to reduce it by 70.
So let's say
First
the article
motion
is
is to say
defeated.
a million minus
Does it,
70.
do we have to
Motion to approve
amend
930
another
for
number?
that.
Or does it automatically go back to,
Finance committee looks at the articles, and then we make a recommendation, printed underneath,
I understand.
finance committee recommendation. Finance committee recommends this account be funded at blah, 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 the changed amount. So when then,
Yes.
right, so who will be making the motion
So someone else needs.
for reading the original motion? No one?
No,
The original
it's the
warrant.
finance committee's recommendation.
Okay,
The original warrant,
Okay.
doesn't the original warrant have to be
doesn't,
read?
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, actually.
So why did
That's why it's
council
tricky.
think that we have to have the warrant for his request?
He felt that keeping it in the budget,
Yeah,
then having to put a hold on it,
yeah.
and then
No,
starting
no,
that
no,
whole
no,
rigmarole.
forget that part. I assume it gets its separate warrant item.
Yeah.
Why does it have to, the warrant itself have to be his number versus our number?
Covering the
'Cause he's
statute.
presenting his recommended
Covers
budget.
the statute. The superintendent of a vocational school or regional school may present to town meeting their request.
Yeah.
And this covers it by, right,
Cause
He's done
he can't stand up as a non-resident and say, I wanna make an amendment to
Wow.
Right.
this. So we put his number first,
Right.
but we
So who's
move
reading
the
Article
different
5?
number.
Am I supposed to read
Because
Article
the other,
5?
the other part of this is, if you don't approve
You
his
move.
number,
no, you're gonna,
you've also taken sort of it's more of a parliamentary move, but under the statute, it's a vote of disapproval of his budget. It goes on the scoreboard as 1. If that number gets up to 5, he doesn't have a budget, and it kicks in a process that he has to
Right.
follow.
Right.
So it's kind of a double-edged motion. You're
It starts the ball rolling on
You're
that.
underfunding him, but you're giving yourself enough money to pay the assessments as they're submitted to the town.
Are we gonna be clear by that night procedurally of exactly how that's gonna play then?
Yeah,
So-
it's clear in my
So in
mind.
theory,
I
it's
get
gonna
it.
be
I
in
get
the
it.
warrant, nobody's gonna read the warrant.
no,
No.
We're
We're
gonna
gonna
make
say,
a
oh,
motion.
Article
that's-
5, la 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 la. Anybody like to make a motion on
Yes.
Article 5? All the others will have been read.
There's no
no,
harm
the
done.
finance
Yeah.
committee is gonna be
The
charged
finance
with making that
committee-
motion.
Yeah.
Why am I gonna make a motion to approve his full budget?
You're
No,
not.
no,
You're
no.
not.
You're gonna be,
You're
you're
gonna make a
Recommended
motion
budget.
different than this to approve
Okay, I'm
70,000 less.
I'm sorry.
That's-
So
I
his
don't-
number will be presented and advertised, but you're not gonna move that.
Right.
You're gonna move a
Right.
different number than what's on the
Doesn't
board.
feel right.
Well,
Why not?
it is. In the past, all of the articles, the important thing for finance committee when we recommend is to understand what the motion is, because the motion tells you exactly what's gonna happen. Sometimes the board of select, or the warrant gets written, a sum of money. We don't vote on a sum of money. We vote on, oh, I wanna know how much, thank you very much. And so, in this case, we're gonna be making the motion to recommend a lower amount. Period. And that's just, we're being given that privilege.
And Ryan, you would put that explanation in the commentary
Yep.
below that article.
Yep.
So you would say the finance committee is not in support of the full budget,
Yep.
they are in support of this amount.
A lower
So
amount.
you're giving notice to the
Yep.
taxpayer of what's going
What's-
before town meeting and what the FinCom has recommended.
Yep.
We're showing the taxpayer what's been asked,
Yes.
Yep.
what we're recommending, and what the difference is. And we're moving that recommendation.
And
Not
you'll
the
have the
ask.
support of the board,
Mm-hmm.
the board of selectmen.
Right.
But this does take us back to the issue we clarified, which it's always hard to get your mind wrapped around it, but it's the board's warrant, this article is the superintendent's article, but it's FinCom's budget. And the statute is very specific.
Mhm.
The recommendations for each line item in the budget must be made by FinCom. You
Okay.
guys have
All right.
the wheelhouse.
But unfortunately, we've pulled this out of the budget. So again, it's that little thing that now we've got an article now. No asterisk, no nothing. Now it's just a separate article. But you're right on the budget.
So
We talked
basically,
earlier.
we will have voted on the budget, and then we're amending the budget, is what it comes right down to, right? Pulling that money out of it.
No,
Well, isn't,
No, it's not gonna be in it when we.
it won't be
when
in the, in the
no, it's
budget
not
on
gonna be
Article
there.
2?
No.
It will be in there for 17 and 18, it will not be in there for FY 19.
Okay.
Okay.
And it will be, see Article 5, and we
Okay.
will vote on it separately.
nobody will read it, and then FinCom will take a
Oh,
vote. All right,
Howard.
okay,
We'll be there to help you.
all right.
All right, so that makes it, I guess,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it means you're
No,
not.
it's gonna make for an
He's
exciting
gonna-
night. all right?
Nightmares, he's having
Bring your
nightmares.
Bring your buckets of popcorn.
No, I feel a
It's
little
gonna be
better about
fun.
it now.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to be optimistic, all right?
Am I gonna have to sit next to Dr. Fitzpatrick?
No, they sit on the other side,
in
they
the
sit on the other side,
section.
non-residents.
Although if you move to Oxford by then, you might be.
Yeah, right.
You'll be next to him.
You can sit right next to him.
Yeah, keep an eye out. All right,
He gets up.
I'm trying to move this along so we're not here till 10 o'clock. So we've talked about the base budget. Is there anything else in the base budget people feel strongly that they have a difference with at this point? That we should want to get some material on, that we've talked about the library, we've talked about BBT. Talked a little bit about the COLA and steps. I don't see anything else to disagree with, but
Did you say we were gonna, sorry, did you say you were gonna talk about the capital improvement plan with the fire chief? Is that what you said?
yes, he's
Monday.
the,
That's
yes, he's the head of the capital, chairman of the capital committee. So I actually haven't seen any of those meetings, so I don't know. Okay, so we're good with the
So we
base.
are bringing on someone extra for the fire department?
No. I
No.
believe so.
Okay.
In either budget, right? No extra
Okay, I'm just
medical,
saying
either budget.
No
$47,000.
peoples at all, no peeps,
No peeps.
no peeps.
Exactly, very appropriate.
Okay, no, that's right.
All right, so let's talk briefly about the supplemental budget. Article 3 on the annual town meeting. We'll go through the other articles in a minute, but I just want to talk about budget stuff before I get to the articles. Okay? So, is there any, again, we're just looking consensus, what we should focus on in the 9th, what we need to talk about. Okay?
I think I got this in an email, right?
You did,
But
but that's not updated to when we
I
got
don't
tonight.
think Article 3 was in there. Is that-
It was, but it
Okay,
wasn't,
sorry.
not, wasn't as deep. This has been
Wasn't
updated
filled
since the
in,
one
yeah,
Suzanne sent us.
This is fluid,
It's a fluid
Fluid?
document, as they
it's a
say.
fluid document.
All right. Okay. So the library, got the wages and expenses, 227 and change. Is there anyone who disagrees with putting the library into the supplemental budget?
The words increase, I just question, are we really increasing
The
or?
Board of Selectmen has made a recommendation to, or actually they voted to change the language to increase the library wages from 0 to 164,380, increase the library's expenses from 2701 to 63,192. So it was clear that there was some monies appropriated as part of the base, but it was really only for the lights and the heat, and then this would fund the rest of the operations.
The minimum funding for the library, it doesn't designate where that money has to go to, as long as that amount is spent, is that correct?
It goes to the expenditure budget. It
Right,
doesn't
but
say.
it doesn't matter if it's wages versus,
It
it's,
does matter, wages versus expense, it goes to the
Okay.
expenditure budget.
so that 63 is the minimum funding level?
The what?
You have
If
wages
the library's
of,
open, yes.
right. If the library's open, you have 164 in wages and 63,192. Is that the minimum funding requirement, the 63,192?
No, the 227, or whatever that comes out to,
Yes.
Right?
is slightly above the CW, the MAR they call it.
Right, but I just asked if wages were included, and you said no.
No.
It could, the minimum,
164 is
In this
wages and
number, they're
63
included,
is
they're not included in the
expenses.
base budget.
No, he's not asking that, he's asking if it counts towards the MAR.
right, that's what I'm asking. The MAR figure
The
doesn't
minimum-
separate if
I
it,
know it, yes.
Local, yeah,
the
so,
requirement.
yeah, it's not just the expenditures, it's the whole thing.
okay,
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
okay. So the MAR, it doesn't separate where that money has to go to, purchasing books or whatever, it just has to go to the library.
Correct.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay, so, my point to you, James, is the two increases here, under the library, You don't have increased Douglas Schools personnel and expenses.
Oh, do you want,
So
What
can
do
we
you want?
cross off the increase word and just say, this is going to library wages, this is going to library expenses? It's an addition, it's all it is you're reinstating the library costs. From 0 to whatever. Oh, and you're increasing the Douglas schools by that amount as well. I mean, I don't know. Just, I'm trying to be consistent and without causing questions at town meeting, rather than do it here.
And, or with people reading the thing
With
at
people
home.
reading increase. It's
Increase.
increase? Why
Yeah.
are they increasing the
Right,
library?
right.
It just doesn't,
I
It's
think
not
we
a good
should- I
word.
don't like the word increase either, quite
Okay.
frankly, on it. 'Cause it
it's
looks like,
just gonna cause something.
So should it say library personnel and expenses?
I
so you
want
just
to
want
think library
library
wages, library
wages, X
expenses.
amount, libraries expense
Yeah,
X amount.
period.
yeah, but
Yeah,
no, I don't like
the
that word
increase is the-
increase.
It's a target. It's a,
This is why we have multiple people reading the warrant.
Does anyone besides Pam and Carol feel the same way? I just want to make sure.
I mean, to me, it's kind of synonymous that an override, all
It's
these
at
lines are
0.
getting increased. You
it's
know,
at
from-
0.
But I mean, to me, whether you're increasing from 0 or you're increasing from 1 million, all
Yeah.
of these you're increasing.
Right, so then you'd put increased Douglas schools
We
if you.
either put it on all of them or you put it on none of them.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
that's what I
I think we as a committee agreed with that. Either put them on all of them.
Put
or
it,
put on
put all of
none.
them on none of them,
Yeah.
that's all.
A minor question, just, what's a hot box?
Is that what, is that
I
what?
mean, it just,
Can we get?
you
Are you trying to keep us?
World
No,
War
we got the chairman coming on Monday. Feel free to talk to him.
Contrary
I just want to make sure we're not
What your
funding like
imagination may
POW
put
conjure.
soldiers in them as torture.
It is not keeping the Krispy Kreme donuts.
Oh, all right.
It's a device that is towed behind a dump truck that has a propane heater in it. You go to the asphalt plant, it keeps the asphalt at horrible temperature. So when you come back to fill
Pothole
potholes
fixes,
Yeah.
got
and you
it.
tamp
Sally.
it down, you usually only do it once. Whereas cold patch, you can never tamp it and it just flies out.
Falls out the next
So
rainstorm.
is there
Got it.
money in the budget this year to fix the roads? I mean, they're pretty bad. They're getting
I'm sorry, folks. Can we try to stay
is
focused?
wonderful.
I know we're gonna be here till 10:30 at this pace. It's 10:45. It's now 9:15. We haven't
No.
even looked at the warrant yet.
15
Bring your
minutes.
sleeping bag?
The chairman of the capital committee will be here on Monday night.
Good.
So any capital questions, I think we ought to reserve for him in the appropriate spot. That way he can ask.
The
okay?
hot box was important.
It was. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be frustrated, but I'm just trying to move it along. Is that your question, a capital committee question?
You know what I'll do for you, Mike? Anything listed under these here, I will give you.
Was it
I'll
about the-
scan a copy
the
of
highway budget?
capital
Is it-
request.
Okay.
So it'll give a description, so you'll have it for Monday.
They will have chapter 70 money. Will it, I'm sure if you ask the highway, I should say.
Chapter 90.
My guess would be the chapter 90, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thank
90.
you. Thank you.
70 wrong.
School wouldn't give
I
them.
was in the ballpark. I'm guessing the highway superintendent says we will have some money to work on the roads, but I would like
It's
to.
in our highway maintenance budget. It's
Yeah.
materials.
Yeah.
So all of our road fixes are there. 90 is for,
Because we haven't done much on the roads in the last few years. I mean, I hear a lot of people complain.
Repairing
It's
bridges.
been diverted, yeah. It's
We've
been
been repairing bridges the past couple of years, that's why.
And the chapter 90 money has been diverted as well, because they use that for the roads too.
It looked like gas question, but let's go ahead and move
On the
on.
capital? Or on
No,
something
about a
else?
bridge, but.
Oh, yes, that'd be a perfect thing to discuss in that after the meeting is adjourned.
you gotta catch me because I'm running.
All right, Douglas School personnel and expenses. Is it fair to say we have some questions on this and I should bring some materials on? We're doing this supplemental budget now.
Okay.
We just talked about the library. We all seem on board with approving that. I do think there is some disagreement among us about the school's personnel expenses. Would that be a fair assessment? Or does a
I'd
great majority of the
I'd
committee?
like to be clear on what
Well,
we're
I can't
doing.
promise we'll be clear, but, well, I will try to be clearer. I can't promise we'll be.
Maybe we'll have
clear.
Brett come with the cuffs.
Okay, so at least Pam and I think have some
Uh-huh.
questions. If the rest of the committee says, no, we clearly want to fund with 3.5, let me know
No,
now.
no.
No, we
But
got
those
questions.
questions can come up.
Include me,
Okay.
include me with you and Pam.
All right, so we'll talk about that. OPEB, is the consensus that adding $75,000 to the OPEB budget out of the supplemental is?
it's a one-time thing. It's that we're trying to pump up that number, I think, to,
Yeah, we have 50 in the base budget, and we're just trying to get it to 125. Again, this is just,
yep. How far behind, how much we got now? And what's the delta, Jean?
I don't have how much we have, the delta is very large.
Yeah, I know.
Is this one of
A little
those,
bit less than 1% of what you need.
Oh, good.
just real quick, you can give me a yes or no, I don't need a long explanation, but is this one of those budget line items where once you increase it, you can't decrease it, so let us know nice? So we could increase to this and then go back to 50 at a later date if we
Zero.
needed to? Okay. Well, I don't think 0 would be very,
No,
Yeah.
Jean
very
would
good for
argue
us,
that
but
our bonding people wouldn't like it too much.
Actually, I do have how much we have. We have 509,000.
That's it? And that is why I honestly believe they should do people on time and a half instead of adding more employees, but we won't get into that. I could be all night on that one.
I'll up you. I think they ought to change the pensions in government.
Well,
So if, in the supplemental budget, are we still using 500,000 of free cash? I guess we are. Is that correct?
No.
No.
You're not
'Cause that
using
money's
any
going to-
free cash for operating, period. If
Okay.
free cash,
So-
if any free cash were to materialize, it would be used for capital.
So,
So that was my question at the beginning,
The
right?
budget, the base budget will have a transfer of $500,000 from free cash.
Okay,
But what you're doing is you're kind of swapping these two out. So if both pass, really you're spending 500,000 for operating and the 543 for the, it's just the way it's voted. There will be a transfer of 500,000 from free cash to Article 2 for the budget.
Will you use all of the free cash in the supplemental, or you're still gonna roll? Or you haven't decided
well, I
yet
think I've
until
gotten
you-
two different
until we
answers
get
from you two.
I don't think you've gotten two different answers. I think we see it, the explanation a little differently.
Okay,
I mean, you gotta remember there's a lag. So that's a prediction that you would have the free cash to use to balance the
well,
budget.
we have free cash, I'm talking this year's free cash.
No, this year you're using it for capital. It's already set aside.
No, for, well,
You-
are we not
you're
using
taking-
this year's free cash for next year's budget, Jean?
You are. There is $500,000 being voted as Article 2 for next year's operating budget.
Yeah.
In addition to that, there's free cash voted as part of the capital, and I think that's,
Right. And the amount of free cash that we got this year was what, 1 point something?
5.
1.5. Oh, okay, I guess I didn't get that number. When did that come in?
When did you
Last-
No, when-
receive that memo?
No, when did the,
that's fine.
okay, sorry,
That's okay.
1,588,634.
okay.
So would it be? Correct, it wouldn't be correct to say the 500,000 of free cash is being used in this capital line for the supplemental budget.
It kind of is.
It kinda is, but,
And I don't know, and I think that's where the explanation,
I assume maybe someone won't ask, but that's a question that comes to me. If you're not gonna use it, that should be listed here.
Well, no,
Non-use
isn't
of
that,
500,000 of
It should
free
be a
cash.
isn't that
minus
being
in there.
used out of the 1.5 million override? Is that what I'm looking at? Is that
You
what
are.
Article 3 is?
It is.
That's the override money.
right.
That's not the $500,000 being used for free cash.
Right.
So,
right?
So then we are using $500,000 of free cash for the supplemental budget as well. We
because
have,
it's already in the base.
It's
and
in the
then we're
base,
adding
it's in the
1.5
base,
to it.
and base plus is, this is the second
That's what
500,000,
I have.
right?
It's very confusing.
it is confusing.
Because the override creates an it helps you meet the objective in year 5. You're overshooting in year 1. You're not going to need to backfill with free cash. So you can declare it as capital, but it's gonna be there for only town meeting to dispense. And the question would be, remember, we have assumptions built in about the stability of the BVT budget and about our ability to negotiate with the school transportation people that go above and beyond. You know, they're in the budget as a number because we're gonna try to hit those targets. But if we have absolutely no backstop,
So
it's not a good thing.
would it be simpler to say that that $500,000 were in the budget will then just be free cash at the end of 18? Somehow, there's gotta be some sort of simple explanation for the public to understand this question if it's asked.
Well, I think you just said
So you think that is
it.
correct?
Does
Is
that
that
sound
correct?
right?
Well, then that would
Sometimes
mean
You're
that,
rolling 500,000.
With the override, we're essentially rolling $500,000 over into free cash, assuming all other expenses are, you know, that money can't be spent, has to be spent by town meeting, so essentially rolling it over for fiscal 18. Is that the way to say it?
So is that
I
money?
just like the term rolling
is
over,
that-
but
Oh, okay.
it's just too damn bad. There's
Well,
money that's
presenting a
not gonna be
balanced budget,
spent, it's
though.
gonna be carried forward, whether
If you have a
call
better
it
term, I'm happy to
2
use it.
years or purple peeps, it's
All
still
right.
money that won't be spent. The question is, you don't know. You
I
don't
understand.
know if snow and ice is gonna come in, you don't know any of those things, so
So,
it's
how
the
about-
flexibility that we think we need to,
so that
It's the
500,000 can
flexibility we
be,
need to get to year 5.
yes,
Yeah.
can be spent for other costs in 2018, but town meeting must approve.
that's right.
Unexpected costs. Okay.
So
You have to
basically,
plead your case.
basically, it's gonna be sitting in a bank account until town meeting decides they need to spend it on something, right? So we're still gonna have it, but it's gonna be just, you know, it's gonna be, a bank account, to, you know,
That's part of the purpose of the override, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you said, you keep it
And
there and that's
I hate to
the,
say it, but you're so used to not thinking of it this way, but that is how a lot of other towns run.
right?
They just keep that free cash.
Keeping the
flowing.
powder in the gun.
Powder dry, I believe is the term of the night.
I'm waiting for Gene to say it. Capital, are we in consensus that the rest of the override budget should be spent on capital? Or are there other things we think that
no
we may
question.
wanna spend that? No,
That's a Monday, that's probably a big debate.
okay,
Yep.
And
that,
those-
that is something we wanna talk about then.
I'm
So,
assuming these were prioritized or just save the question until Monday?
these are
If,
prioritized?
if I can just say one thing about the
Sure.
capital. The reason, in my opinion, the capital was put in there is because it's a non-reoccurring expense.
Yep.
Years 2 through 5, that money
Can be spent on the budget.
will be used to spend on the
Yeah.
budget, and we plan for that.
Yep.
So you don't wanna increase another expenditure account and have that commitment in year 2 through 5, because we want these to be one-time expenditures that will, you know.
Or
not be
could
done.
address other capital needs.
Okay.
Another way to
Well,
phrase it, one possibility is, that's the fund that will be absorbed by the school department
Sure.
as it has stability and grows.
and Vista Regional and health insurance and those
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
things
sure.
that we know are
Yeah.
going to increase in
Yeah.
year 2 through
Yeah.
5, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
it's written the way it is.
Okay,
My question
Yes.
was, the capital that's listed here is the most bang for the town's buck, basically. They're the most pressing needs that we can also fix the most of, basically. Is that correct?
There's a whole process.
Okay.
Chief,
Who's
talk-
selling the override on election night, on town meeting night? Who's pitching it? Who's speaking to approve it?
Can we have children go up there and?
I'm asking.
In the past, there have been
Whose role is it to seek to approve the
You're ready for Uxbridge, aren't
override?
you?
Who's making the motion?
Yeah.
Is that what your question is?
Mhm.
Oh, gotta be one of the board members. Probably Kevin would be my guess. He'll raise his hand.
Is it a Board of Selectmen
Oh, yeah,
role?
absolutely. For the article, what article is it?
Agreed.
Article 3.
Yeah.
Well, Howard's gonna talk, I have another hypothetical.
Uh-oh.
It's not a good one either. Say the finance committee does not recommend the override. I'm not saying it'll happen, but the last vote was pretty close. Do we then not recommend the override and recommend a budget if the override passes? Is that how that works?
Well, your goose is cooked by then. You will have passed the base budget.
Right, so say this committee decides they do not support the override.
Okay. If the finance committee votes to recommend the base budget
Yes.
and the override, if it passes, we can then vote not to recommend the override
What?
itself.
So Article 2 is the base budget.
That's right.
Right.
Article 3 is the override.
Right, so
So
we're not
what
gonna.
happens if,
Yeah.
hypothetically,
Oh.
Finance Committee does not support the override?
Right,
Do we then also still go ahead and recommend a supplemental budget, even though we did not support the override? I guess the answer is yes.
the budget supplement
Really?
is
How
the
would you do
override.
That is the override.
The board
Budget
se-
supplement is the override.
A member of the
Vote.
board of selectmen is making the motion.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
No,
Then it's the
the
board of selectmen that's making the motion. Your
recommendation.
recommendation would be not to support it, you'd be in the commentary in the flyer.
But people can still vote for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
Right.
if the
Are we
board,
gonna, so we don't support it, but we're gonna give you a recommended budget just in case it passes? Is that what
Right.
you're
No, I think, I would think if we,
So?
I would think, and, I mean, correct me
Okay,
if
so-
anybody feels
Yeah.
different, but I would think if we voted not to support the override, then we would just be going with the base budget, and that would be
Right.
that.
Yeah,
Ryan's question is, what if the override, we were against the override,
yeah.
but it passed
Oh, yeah.
anyway? Would we have a proposed use of the supplemental funds?
Well,
You
there-
either
I
do
think
it
this
this way or
way-
you have a special town meeting. How else would you?
But I think our recommendation would be moot. If the town voted to approve the override use of funds,
Right.
isn't that it?
I
That's
don't
it.
think so.
They-
We told them our opinion.
Yeah, then,
Yes.
We've gotta have a list here. How
If-
we're gonna
if we
spend
The
the
voted-
override just allows you to raise the money.
Right,
You guys still gonna appropriate.
right.
well, this does both.
But that does both
Yeah.
in this. But if,
Yeah.
if we don't recommend that, and if this article is presented as is here tonight, and at the bottom it just says Finance Committee does not recommend by a vote of,
Yeah.
5 to 4,
That's it.
whatever,
They're
and it
voting-
passed, or at the town meeting, that's
You're
it.
doing
The
both.
the appropriation is done.
That's
Okay.
right.
It doesn't, it's a
Yeah.
moot point if we
Right.
endorse it or not.
Okay.
The
Ryan, does that
town
answer your
blessed
question?
it,
No.
you
Right.
know?
So would I put here is the Board of Selectmen's? I thought we discussed in there tonight that this would be the Finance Committee recommendation on how to spend the 1.5 million.
Correct.
no,
You gotta
Yeah,
be
but you've
consistent
raised a
with
new
all this
issue.
stuff.
You've raised the issue as to whether we didn't recommend the
Cause
override.
if we didn't, it would be like saying, we don't recommend that you do an override, but if you do do an override, then this is how
where
we
it's being
recommend you
That's
spend
tough,
it.
Right.
that's tough.
If we said, yeah, we're all in for a 1.5 million override, however, I wanna scrap all of the capital items and I want to
Yeah.
buy a fleet of new cruisers,
Right.
Yeah.
right? Or I wanna
That's
divert the funds here, I wanna divert them there. That I think would be
A problem. Yeah.
you're right.
Okay.
But if we're just saying, no, we don't, carte blanche, don't agree with the 1.5 override,
because
that's just a
finance,
recommendation that we give, that,
finance committees often recommend against, but the people come in and they want it and they vote for it,
Right.
so.
I guess
just
the
think
question
it-
is, who's making the motion? That's the question I have.
Question is, and I'm gonna move along, because I don't think it's really gonna happen, so, well, I'm trying to move along. I just feel like it'd be hypocritical for the Finance Committee to say, no, we don't want to, we don't recommend approving the override, but we're gonna tell you how we think you should spend it if you do.
You lose your seat at the table.
That would be kind of what I
Right.
thought.
right.
Gene, Board of Selectmen?
Yeah. for the
Yeah.
selectmen.
Well, I think
Absolutely.
Dan's saying Board of Selectmen, but I think Ryan's right. I think in the other room, we said the Finance Committee.
We did.
Doing Article 3?
I think the statute's clear. The
Yes.
budget is recommended by
okay.
finance committee.
Oh, budget's, yeah.
So the selectmen don't do that.
Okay, so
The
I
only
guess,
power they have, and only they have it, is to put an override on the ballot. But when it comes to deciding whether or not the revenues raised would be spent in a certain way, it's a
Well,
budget function which comes
Does
to
that mean
FinCom.
it should be two different questions?
Yeah.
I asked that today, and council recommended this form.
Okay.
yeah, I'm thinking this is a different form though,
Right.
than what I've seen, no?
It's not.
Is
No,
it the
we
same?
copied it from,
Because then if we
Okay,
didn't
from year-
recommend
years
it,
past.
then how does, right.
there's more lines
Because then
in
if we
this
didn't
one.
recommend it as a group, how does Ryan get up and present it as the chair of the finance committee? He would have to be presenting a recommendation not to raise and appropriate a 1.5 million override?
It certainly
you
seems
always-
to be one of the
motion
rare
on the
areas where the
positive.
two boards have
Sounds like a
different
fine
duties.
situation.
Then would a no vote really
Sounds
mean
like
yes
something
for an
that's gonna
override?
happen.
You know, I mean, that's,
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't a proposal always
The
have to be in the
night
affirmative? Right? You don't motion against
Ryan, is
something,
the
it always has to be in the
perception
affirmative.
that that should go back to town council? Do you have a concern that there might not be a
Well,
finance
maybe-
committee recommendation
I-
with regard to the,
I don't, I
Override?
I don't remember what it was first time it was 4-3.
He's a flat fee
Oh.
guy, so I can ask him all the questions I want. The price goes down.
yeah, I
what
got my
questions
legal
I ask.
opinion, one word.
I mean, we can sit here now and take some sort of consensus, Ryan, without it being a legal vote. I mean, is anybody inclined to vote against the override?
All right.
How's that? Anybody?
I haven't
Raise
made
your
up-
hand
I
now.
haven't made up my mind to
I
vote
haven't
Okay.
for
made
it.
up my mind yet either.
Okay, two not made up their minds.
say 3, I'm on the fence.
You're on the fence, okay.
Just brought another question to my mind.
Oh,
What
no.
if it's a 4-4 tie?
No, Ryan, haven't even,
Lee's not here. We have
That's
8.
easy. Ties fail.
Ties fail. All right. So maybe it is a question for Rich. I feel like that's 4 possible. It's closer than I thought it was.
I have a different question.
All right.
Wouldn't there be a motion to approve a different amount?
That I
No,
think
we
the
can do
ballots
that.
will be printed.
No, but
Can't be.
that's the exclusive domain of the selectmen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then that gets back to splitting
The warrant.
the warrants.
Yeah.
So you can make a motion at town, somebody could stand up and make a motion to
Would
increase
you
that amount?
research, could
or
we,
decrease that amount?
No, your point, Board of Selectmen only,
Yes.
and this is what we're asking,
So
one
nobody,
point five.
so that's strictly with them, nobody can stand up and say, I think we should change
Right.
it to 2 million.
Right, that 1.5 is in stone.
You don't have to appropriate the 1.5.
Right,
You can let
right,
it sit
right. I wouldn't mind seeing that be reposed to council,
All right. No problem. We
right?
could put that in 2 questions. That would make my
Two different presenters.
I don't mind presenting.
we could research
I think
how
BOS
it
is
was
supposed to
presented in the
present
past,
this,
because
yeah.
it doesn't feel like the finance
Oh.
committee presented this.
Oh,
Oh, that would
I
be,
think that,
Before me.
Because if people want it to pass,
That would be
you need to
maybe
figure out
in-
how you're gonna sell it.
How would you
That's
present
what
it
you
last time?
talked about earlier
1.7?
tonight,
I don't,
getting more information from the
year
What
school
was that long
committee
ago?
about
pull up
how
the
it
archive
might be
video.
used.
2016.
People wanna know how this
we
money's
don't
gonna
remember
be
things
used.
like that, man.
Before the
It's
minutes
too
sign
much
off.
water under the bridge.
Oh my
no, I
goodness.
think she's, her question
And
is
look at the debate
presented,
we
right?
just had on the 553 and the 500.
But also how it's
Who's
written.
It's
going
right
where
here.
and what.
Oh, good.
We didn't
She
understand.
got it.
Yeah,
The
no.
voters didn't understand.
Oh.
I think it's dangerous.
Who did, was it me? Or who? Or do we know? We don't. It's just,
I think
that's
it
the
was Todd
motion.
the first time around. I don't remember.
You have
who
to
was
look at
this.
the video.
FinCom recommends by a vote of 4 yes and 2 no,
Yeah,
this was
but
on
that-
1.7. It was written the same way, we copied the language,
Okay.
it doesn't say who made the motion.
Right.
I felt more confident. The first year, my head was spinning. I'm like, I'm the deciding vote? Are you kidding me? Was not a happy place to be.
Okay.
All right. So it is now 9:37.
What do we have to finish?
We don't have to finish anything.
Oh, yeah.
We can review the warrant and all its articles if we'd like. I do think we will not be here this late on Monday, so I think we should, my recommendation would be to pass on this until Monday.
I make a motion to adjourn for the evening.
I second that.
Any discussion, objections to? Howard made the motion. Cynthia, second?
Of course,
All in
Cynthia
favor?
asked one question.
Aye.
only,
Aye.
And she was